All right. The Pope's funeral. Did Trump not get the memo? Yeah, bro's asleep. He is asleep. Let's be honest. He's wearing a blue suit to a funeral where typically you're supposed to wear black. So I guess there's that. Maybe I was feeling like a little bit of a maverick today, and I just wanted to bring a blue suit. Think about it, folks. Think about it. But it's not really about the fact that he's wearing a blue suit, although that is funny. It's more so about this. So we have obviously Zelensky was there, and all of the other European leaders and stuff. A bunch of world leaders went to the Pope. It turns out, guys, that there's a lot of Catholics that live around the world. Who shocking, I know. So what? We had some more, I suppose, negotiations going on between President Zelensky. Why don't we take a look at that? Ukraine negotiations, Vatican. Did any new developments come out of here? What happened with the talk? We'll hop on. Trump criticizes Zelensky after meeting at Vatican. Really? Trump and Zelensky meet one-on-one at Vatican Basilica to seek peace. Meeting was before the funeral of Pope Francis. Zelensky says discussion could prove historic. It was their first encounter since since J.D. Vance did his LARP shitshow fest idiocy. After meeting, Trump takes tough tone in post about Putin, ceasefire talks in Russian war, and Ukraine at critical phase. Wonder what the criticism was. Because again, here's the thing, okay? I don't know what Zelensky talked about, because he's probably not going to say. I know that, because of, I think this was a recent Truth Social post, where Trump was just like, Putin, why did you attack? I don't like the fact that you attacked like that. Why aren't you listening to me, Putin? Right? What's the, Trump, Putin. There's a Truth Social post about this shit, right? He was, not very happy. Here we go. It's this shit. No matter what deal I make with respect to Russia-Ukraine, no matter how good it is, even if it's the greatest deal ever made, the failing New York Times will speak badly of it. So, here's the thing. None of your deals were good, okay? Let's be quite honest here. None of his deals were good. Neither side was ever going to agree to it because the Russians, like I said before, they have current strategic initiative and they think, with Trump in office, more than likely he'll get tired of supporting the Ukrainians and then, because I think the most recent deal was what? There was going to be trade relations, sanctions relief, and a bunch of other stuff that was going to be given to Russia. But one of the things that the Russians are looking for the most is annexation of the territories that they conquered, even part of the territories that the Ukrainians are still holding. That wasn't part of the deal, so it was a non-starter. The Ukrainians were never going to agree to it either because they want all the territory that they lost to be gained back. So, I've talked about this before. Every time there's a peace deal, it's always going to be a non-starter because neither side's ever going to agree to any terms. Ever. Little Peter Baker, that was the very biased and untalented writer of the Times, followed his editor's demands and wrote that Ukraine should get back territory, including, I suppose, Crimea, and other ridiculous requests. Those territories in the 1991 referendum voted to form the country of Ukraine. Get bent. It's in their constitution. You can, suck it up, buttercup. Cope? Cope? Cope. In order to stop the killing that is worse than anything since World War II. Why doesn't this lightweight reporter say that it was Obama who made it possible for Russia to steal Crimea from Ukraine without even a shot being fired? What are you talking about? What? I mean, this is just a complete revision of fucking history. No, there was plenty of shots being fired by the separatists, and the Russians took advantage of the chaos that was caused by, the civil war that started because of the Russians providing, equipment to the separatists and just marched into Crimea. Whoa, crazy. It was also Little Peter who wrote an absolutely fawning, yet terribly written biography on Obama. It was a joke. Didn't Baker ever criticize the Obama Crimea giveaway?
I do agree that like the Obama's response to the annexation of Crimea was pretty weak, to be quite honest. But like, what are you like expecting to do? Like, I guess this is like the meme where it's just like,
I gave the javelins to the Ukrainians. Obama just sent them beds and other medical supplies. Didn't give them like anything at all.
sure, okay, you can sort of you can quibble about those criticisms. Okay, I don't think that's like silly to say from Trump. Obama's sort of response was very weak because again, Obama, like every other Democrat before, is following the sort of Clintonite fucking agenda here, saying like, oh, if the Russians invade Ukraine, just let them bleed each other out. Fuck it, who gives a shit, you know? And it's just like that's a pretty wretched way of looking things. Thank you, Hillary Clinton. Very, very cool that you suggested that.
No, not once. Only Trump, and I've had nothing to do with this stupid war other than early on when I gave Ukraine javelins and Obama gave them sheets. This is Sleepy Joe Biden's war, not mine.
The war started in 2014 and persisted and continued, the Civil War, during your presidency. Also, there's the Kurt Strait incident, which happened. This is about as much you being a part of the war as, guess what, Joe Biden also being a part of the war. Also, like, again, this is the fascist thing where he talks out of both sides of his mouth. He's claiming that this isn't his war, yet he shipped off weapons to the Ukrainians to fight the separatists. But he's also going to brag about giving the Ukrainians the Ukrainians weapons. Like what's going on here? You're talking out of both sides of your mouth. Like, this isn't your war, but it's also like you can say that be okay with like giving weapons and stuff. It's nonsense. It's nonsense.
It was a loser from day one and should have never happened and wouldn't have happened if I were president at the time.
In 2014 or the invasion in 2022? No, I think it probably would have happened anyway, cuz like Trump doesn't think much of you, little bro. He doesn't think you're shit.
I'm just trying to clean up the mess that was left to me by Obama and Biden, and what a mess it is.
You're like, by giving the Russians a lot of the stuff that they want, but not everything that they want, so okay, whatever.
With all that being said, there was no reason for Putin to be shooting missiles into civilian areas, cities and towns over the last few days.
He's been doing that since the start of the war, just constantly shelling. Hey, fucking Marxist-Leninists, you complain about fucking Israel doing the same thing to the Palestinians, but not about when, like, Putin is also bombing the shit out of fucking different civilian areas and facilities necessary for civic society. Well, you know, double standards as always. God, he's so unaware as fuck about this. Well, yeah, like, because he's pro-Russian. But he doesn't know how to manage a war as well. Like, we saw this exact same response when, with Syria, right? Sarcasmatron goes over this in his video, right? About Donald Trump's wars. Don't let, like, any of these dipshits pretend and say that, like, you know, that Trump has had no part to play in any wars. In comparison to Obama, drone strikes went up by 432%. He presided over a shadow war within Africa. This is true, from multiple drone bases in the western parts of Africa, in specifically Nigeria, as well as also his whiff-waffling on Syria. Because he wanted to pull out American troops and send them back in, and then pull them out and then send them back in constantly, because he wanted to get the oil and also to bomb ISIS. So Trump has about as much blood on his hands as any other fucking 21st century US president. It doesn't really matter. Not to mention the whole mess that he created as a result of Afghanistan. Afghanistan was also still happening under his tenure. You presided over that war as well. So, fuck out of here with this bullshit. Oh, not to mention also the bombing of Qasem Soleimani within the Iraqi airport, where you just, like, assassinated him. But, well, you know.
I have nothing to do with any of those wars. I have no idea what you're talking about. It makes me think that maybe he doesn't want to stop the war. He's just tapping me along and has to be dealt with differently through banking or secondary sanctions. Too many people are dying.
You know, as much of like a blustering buffoon he is, you know, because he is a blustering buffoon, he's making to the final actual correct conclusion for once that Putin doesn't want to end it, because why would he want to end it? Because he has current strategic initiative, because of a lot of abstemiousness from the fucking Democrats. Oh, whoa, crazy. Whoa. Who would have thought that this thing could have happened? It's now just like a stupid fucking quagmire because of so many different fucking circumstances. Well, what's this? So what's the Reuters article got to say? U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky in Rome met one-on-one on a marble-lined Vatican basilica on Saturday. Said the meeting could prove historic, and White House spokesperson called it very productive. We might not have any ideas. The two leaders leaning in close to each other with no aides around them while seated in St. Peter's Basilica spoke for about 15 minutes. According to Zelensky's office, and images of the meeting released by Kiev and Washington, or Kiev and Washington, the meeting in the Vatican, their first encounter since J.D. Vance's LARP Fest in Washington in February, comes at a critical time in negotiations aimed at bringing an end to the fighting. After the funeral service, Trump boarded Air Force One and departed Rome. While in the air, he published that post that we just looked over. Let's see. Secondary sanctions. We've talked about this already. Following Trump's remarks, Republican U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham said the Senate is poised to move forward on bipartisan legislation that would impose trade sanctions on countries that purchase Russian oil, gas, and other products. Oh, great. So what? More sanctions on China? It'd also be like India. Would they do sanctions on Israel? Sanctions on Israel? I'm pretty sure Israel also buys Russian gas. They definitely buy Russian gas. And oil and other stuff. But yeah, what? Sanctions on India and China? I don't know if that's not really going to do much of anything. But India would never do sanctions on Israel. They're the biggest arms buyers. No. Not India doing sanctions on Israel, because India buys Russian oil and gas. There's going to be sanctions on that, which means, you know, by proxy, it's, well, sanctions on India, right? Senate stands ready to move in this direction if it does not embrace an honorable, just and enduring peace. Trump's post was a departure from his usual rhetoric and tough criticism. On Telegram, Zelensky wrote, a good meeting one-on-one. We managed to discuss a lot. We hope for a result from all the things that were spoken about. He said on the topics included the protections of the lives of our people, a complete and unconditional ceasefire, a reliable and lasting peace that will prevent a recurrence of war. So, maybe security guarantees, maybe NATO membership. I doubt that, because with the Russians in Crimea, right, you need to have territorial integrity. And also very low amounts of political corruption within the government. I know there has been crackdowns, and that's been worked on by Zelensky's administration, that there's been a significant crackdown on corruption within the Ukrainian government. So maybe, I don't think it's going to be NATO membership. Like, there's not going to be anything, like, Zelensky's not going to agree to any, thing that causes, like, reliable and lasting peace that will prevent a recurrence of war, unless it's American boots on the ground. And this is one of his points that he brought up earlier. It's like, if you literally gave us arms and all the stuff that we were asking for way fucking earlier, and not fucking listen to the sort of Clintonite sort of strategy of letting the Ukrainians and Russians bleed each other out, if you just gave us the arms and let us actually be able to fight the war with the Western equipment, we would have been able to probably push out the Russians. But, you know, they didn't do that, so, well, this is the result. Do you think Kamala would have agreed to Ukraine and NATO membership? I'm not sure. I don't think so. Probably not. I don't think so. Because she probably would have been following the Biden playbook, more than likely, if I were to take a guess, given what we know now, which is the Clintonite playbook, which is just let them bleed each other out. But, you know. In one photograph released by Zelensky's office, the Ukrainian and U.S. leaders sat opposite to each other in the Hall of Basilica. They're leaning into each other, no aides. Second photograph. from the same location. Zelensky, Trump, and Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron were sitting in a tight huddle. Macron had his shoulder on Zelensky, or had his hand on Zelensky's shoulder. That's like that one image where like he only handshakes Zelensky and not Trump because everybody fucking hates Trump because he's a stupid, blustering buffoon. After Zelensky and Trump met in the Basilica, the two men would join other world leaders and did the funeral service. Okay. Differences over territory. Trump has been praising both Moscow and Kyiv, or pressing to agree to a ceasefire and peace deal. He had previously warned his administration would walk away from its efforts to achieve a peace if the two sides don't agree on a deal soon. Okay. Who knows if that's even the case, but whatever. Round of shuttle diplomacy this week. Differences have emerged between the position of the Trump White House on peace talks and the stance on Ukraine and its European allies, according to documents from the talks obtained by Reuters. Okay. Washington is proposing a legal recognition that Crimea, the Ukrainian peninsula annexed by Russia, is Russian territory. Yep, that's the final sort of ceasefire, which the Ukrainians were just like, no, this is a non-starter. Also differences in how quickly sanctions on Russia would be lifted if it were peace deal were signed, and the security guarantees, another thing that Ukraine had problems with. And yeah, how would they get financial compensation? That's another thing that the Ukrainians were also being promised, is financial compensation to help rebuild. How would that happen? Meh. Who knows? Had a rocky personal relationship at the Oval Office meeting. So gambling with World War III, that's the LARP shit show fest. Kiev has tried to repair relations, but the barbs continued. Yeah, because J.D. Vance is a fucking, like, troglodyte, but whatever. Has said Trump was trapped in a disinformation bubble that favored Moscow. True. Well, it's because, like, Trump doesn't actually really know much of anything, and he'll just listen to the idiots around him, and the idiots around him are trapped in a fucking disinformation bubble. So that's cool. The U.S. leader accused Zelensky of foot dragging on a peace deal and making inflammatory statements. Yeah, sure, man. But the two men need each other. Trump requires Zelensky to requires Zelensky's buy-in to achieve his stated ambition of bringing a swift peace between Russia and Ukraine, while Kiev needs Trump to pressure Moscow into diluting some of the more onerous conditions that has been set for a truce. At the Oval Office meeting in February, a reporter was present from a conservative U.S. network accused of the fucking Newsmax, News Nation idiot talked about, like, why are you wearing a suit? It's just like, I don't know. Why are you here asking stupid, dumb fucking questions? Like, okay, whatever, bro. Full-scale invasion 2022 has a skewed suit because he wants for military favors, showing solidarity for the countrymen fighting, which is the thing that's happened. But yeah, he just said it's just like it's dumb, right? Like it's whatever. In Rome on Saturday, Zelensky decided against the suit and wore a dark shirt button-up to the neck with no tie, and wore a dark military-style jacket over the top of that because, again, it's in World War II, so, you know, in World War II, literally, Winston Churchill did the exact same shit. He just wore military garb to show solidarity with the soldiers. It's political. He said, if the war ends, I'll wear a nicer suit than yours. That's good. That's a good response. I mean, he is a comedian. He'll be quippy and smart about it. But yeah, we don't really know many of the details about what was the talk, right? Like, where we can only go off of that one quote, right? Protection of the lives of our people, a complete unconditional ceasefire, a reliable and lasting peace that will prevent the recurrence of war. The only way that this is now going to be possible is, like I said, there has to be boots on the ground from the U.S. The Russians aren't going to try shit if there's U.S. soldiers there. So, guess what? Literally, this is the worst case scenario for fucking everyone, right? The U.S. didn't want to put any troops probably in Ukraine at all, and now it seems like it's probably going to be an inevitability that troops are going to have to go. They're going to have to be there in order to ensure that the Russians don't invade again. Because that's the only deterrent for the Russians not invading again. No fucking Minsk 4. Minsk 4 is not going to fucking work, okay? The Russians have broken every other Minsk Accord agreement, the 3 other ones, meant fucking nothing. They've broken them, and it led to the invasion. If Biden didn't waffle like he did, this would have been over a year ago. Blame Hillary Clinton, because this is the shit that she said. Let them bleed each other out, quite literally. And I mean, if it wasn't for like Trump's idiotic bluster, because if he wanted to look good, he could have just sent all the weapons. Because also the Ukrainians were asking for weapons during the Civil War, obviously. But it was Joe Biden. We know from reporting that Joe Biden was the main dude who was forcing the Europeans to basically tell the Ukrainians to put in a ton of like sort of arbitrary standards for the Ukrainians to follow to make sure that they have Western weaponry. This is all Joe Biden's fault. Quite literally, because he was following the stupid Clintonite playbook of, if there is an invasion, let them bleed each other out. So, whatever. I guess like all the dumbass fucking bullshit that like those international fucking realist types like John Mearsheimer ended up being fucking correct, because I think that's like stuff that they've also been saying before. But nice meme, very cool, very good. Doesn't really change the fact that those dumbasses are all fucking pro-Russia, so whatever. Yeah, we'll see what happens, right? We can only just wait and sort of tell what the fuck's gonna happen, what's gonna play out, what's gonna happen. Yeah, it's just unfortunate that it ended up having to be quite literally the worst case scenario because of Western fucking abstemiousness. Thing that I fucking commented on before. It just sucks. It's quite literally the worst case scenario just ended up playing out. What can you do?